You need another chair?
Yeah, we need
You can
one
just
more
grab
chair.
one of those. Thank you, Assessor. Will Hoyt, with the understanding of a status quo recommended budget, what does that entail for the operations of your department? If you can begin by articulating that for the general public and also just the overall operations of your office and what that means to the city. Thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Well, hello. I am Vivian Will Hoyt, your Nashville and Davidson County Property Assessor, not your tax assessor. You're supposed to laugh on that. To the viewing constituents, Budget Chair, Vircher, and member of the Metro Council, it is an honor to present to you the budget of our office of the Office of Assessment. I have joining with me from our staff is the legendary Jimmy Clary. I told him I wouldn't say that, but I changed my mind because he is legendary. Chief Deputy of Operations, Ms. Christy Scott. Chief Deputy of Administration, Mr. Technology, Mr. Brad Pigg. I'm proud and grateful for the professional service and product that my entire staff of the Office of Assessment has provided. But before we provide you our small budget request, please allow me to give you the highlights of the reappraisal process, some important facts from the 2017 reappraisal with historical facts, and provide answers to some key questions. The process. The purpose of the reappraisal is to reestablish equity. The certified tax rate realizes that property owners in a distressed area pays less. Those property owners in a hot market area pay more, and those property owners in between pay about the same as the prior year. The certified tax rate lowers the tax burden for property owners who falls below the countywide average increase in value. The certified tax rate is approved by the State Board of Equalization of the state of Tennessee and then approved by the mayor and adopted by the Metro Council. Once the certified tax rate is adopted, the mayor or the Metro Council can impose a tax increase if they so choose, and must do it no later than June of that year. A critical responsibility of the reappraisal is the valuing of all taxable property. Once our office completes the evaluating of all taxable properties in the county, we notify property owners via mail of their new value and their right to appeal. By law, in a reappraisal year, property owners have the right to an informal review that is conducted by my office and the right to a formal appeal that is conducted by the Metro Board of Equalization and their hearing officer or the State Board of Equalization. Members of the Metro Board of Equalization are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the Metro Council, while the members of the State Board of Equalization are appointed by the governor. It is important for you to know that both the Metro Board of Equalization and the State Board of Equalization are independent of our office, and the decisions they make are solely their own. Once the Metro Board of Equalization has completed their appeals and adjustments, if any, are made, our office passes the assessment roll over to the county trustee, Charlie Caldwell, who sends tax bills and collects the taxes from the property owners. So that is the process in its simplest form. Important points of the 2017 reappraisal. 247,700 parcels were reappraised. As a result, 37% is the overall county-wide medium appraised increase. For the first time since 2000, commercial assessed value is carrying the tax burden as it should. Earlier, I mentioned the right of the property owner to an informal review and to the formal appeal at either or both the independent boards of the Metro Board of Equalization and the State Board of Equalization. So let me convey some data that is also provided to you in the package or your handouts that you have before you. Please refer to page 1. In 2017, our office received requests and made decisions on 9,841 informal reviews. While this was a 49% increase from the 2013 reappraisal year, 2017 was not a record year for informal reviews. In 2009, this great staff handled 13,541 informal reviews. In 2005, they handled 10,430 informal reviews, thereby making 2017 the third highest year for formal reviews received over the last 20 years in comparison to previous reappraisal years. Case in point, it is not the number of appeals received, but the decisions that are made that may impact a city's bottom line. In 2017, the assessed loss after informal reviews was $190,419,694, or 0.63% decrease, mostly residential appeals. It is notable to say that in comparison to 2013, the assessed loss was 0.80%, and in 2009, the assessed loss was 0.72% on informal reviews. The 2017 percentage is closely in line with previous reappraisal years when it comes to the assessed dollars lost. As a matter of fact, the State Board of Equalization expects that there is going to be adjustments on values and thereby factors in a 1.8% assessed loss that is realized in the certified tax rate. Then there are the decisions made in the formal appeals of the Independent Board of Metro Board of Equalization, whose members are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the council. In 2017, the Metro Board of Equalization and their hearing officers heard 7,177 formal appeals. The assessed loss after those appeals to the Metro Board of Equalization was $717,816,477, or 2.58% decrease. In comparison to previous reappraisal years, 2013 and 2009, assessed loss was 1.06% and 1.24% decrease, respectively. As for those individual property owners who appeal directly to the State Board of Equalization, those appeals will be heard by the State Board of Equalization at some point, as they are responsible for scheduling their appeals. So, questions. For those who have commented that our office should have delayed in delivering the new certified tax rate, please know that the certified tax rate was approved by the State Board of Equalization and then approved by the mayor and the Metro Council in a timely manner, closely to the same time in previous reappraisal years. Some have commented if only the tax rate could have stayed the same. Please note that certified tax rate adjusted in a reappraisal year is designed to prevent local government from receiving a windfall on existing construction. The only way the tax rate prior to the 2017 reappraisal could stay the same is that either the mayor and or the Metro Council raise the property tax after the certified tax rate is established. My office does not have the authority to raise the property tax, or we do not have the authority to leave it the same as in previous year. The 2017 reappraisal was successfully conducted by our Office of Assessment. We delivered a good product and fully accomplished our responsibility to identify, list, appraise, and classify all taxable properties to achieve equity in values and to timely prepare the annual assessment roll. We are confident that there is nothing that we did to impact the shortfall. We did our job. The real estate growth of Nashville, Davidson County is strong. Residential appraised values are at 90% of market value, and commercial appraised values are at 85% of market value when comparing 2017 sales and also those sales compared to the reappraisal values. Growth continues to trend upward. Consider this good news. From our analysis, Davidson County will experience approximately 3.3% increase of assessed value from new construction and other factors like new parcels, improvements, and classification changes for the assessment year 2018 to be collected in 2019. There is one caveat. The $29 million in the new growth revenue can experience a decrease after appeals or any other decisions. Our office and the request that we're making to you. Last budget year, we presented a request for an additional 4 deputy assessors to meet the minimum requirement of the TCA -1-506. See the bottom of page 2 that I've given you in the handout. We are thankful to the previous administration and to this council for the 3 of the 4 positions received. We renew our request for the 1 additional position that will allow us to meet the minimum of 1 deputy assessor per 4,500 parcels. Page 3 exhibits the growth of the parcels in comparison to the full-time appraisers, deputy assessors. Page 4 shows total parcels up to the year 2018. It is critical that we be provided this 1 position to hire well in advance so that this person can be properly trained and to assist us in the 2021 reappraisal and to keep us at the minimum that is required. This is a request for $51,500. This represents the salary plus the fringe benefits. Thank you for your time, and we are here to entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Assessor Hoyt. Vice Chair Schulman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Wilhoit, thank you for obviously coming before us. So I'm trying to understand some of these things. In terms of, there's an informal review. If it's not handled there, then does it go up to the board? Is that the process?
The process is that the property owner can request an informal review. That's a time that we just take a second look. Then at that point, we look at the information they provide us. If there's some information that we're not aware of, we must do our due diligence by going out to the property and looking at some of the things of the reasons why they feel like the property should be adjusted in value. We then provide them with our decision. Usually that's around May. Is that correct? Around May, because we've sent out the valuation notices in April. And when they receive our decision, whether it's a change or no change, if they're not happy with the change, it could be a minimum adjustment, and they're not happy with that, then they can go to the State Board of Equalization. Metro Board of Equalization. And if it's a no change, they can go to the Metro Board of Equalization. So that's how it works. They must follow the process in reference to going to us first, and then the Metro Board of Equalization, then to the State Board of Equalization. However, there are commercial property owners that can go straight to the Metro Board of Equalization, skip over us the informal, and so can the residential as well, but they can also, only the commercial property can go straight to the State Board of Equalization. Am I correct about that? Thank you. That's what I thought.
Okay, so I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, obviously, the informal, the assessed loss after the informals, it's $190 million, right? So that meant after informal reviews, you reduced the amounts of property taxes by $190 million. Is that right?
$190 million, that is correct, mostly residential.
Okay.
Some are, of course, commercial, but mostly residential.
And do you all keep?
And that is assessed loss.
Do you have?
That is assessed loss.
Assessed loss. Do you all have? Do you all keep records? How many of those? The informal reviews was 9,841. Is that right?
The informal reviews was, yes, the number of them was 9,841.
Okay, so how many were taken care of in that informal review? Was that the number that were actually handled?
That was a number that was actually handled. We have to get, do you have the number of that? We don't have that number with us, how many was taken care of there. In other words, you're asking the question, did they go on to the Metro Board of Equalization? We get it. We do not have that number with us, but we can get that to you.
Okay, so what I'd be interested is how many of those actually were worked out in informal review?
Absolutely.
And how many of the 9,841 went on? Now, the number of 7,177, which is in the next column,
That's
formal
about
appeals.
The Metro Board of Equalization.
So some people could just skip over the informal review and go directly to the full Metro Board of Equalization.
Yes.
Okay, so the next question is $717 million. Okay, so that's obviously a lot higher than we've ever seen before in terms of when you compare it to 2013.
Exactly.
Explanation, when something goes up like that, do you all make a recommendation to the Metro Board? Are you there? Do you staff it in the sense of, do you say we've already reviewed it or we don't like it? What's the process of your department when it's in dealing with the Metro Board?
We must by law have someone in there in order to provide them guidance, but we cannot, guide or try to steer their decision. The Metro Board of Equalization has to look at what the appellant is bringing before them and review that information, and based on the information they provide, it's not like a court that, you tell us why it's reduced, okay, a property assessor, you tell us why it should not be reduced. It's just strictly with the appellant and the Metro Board of Equalization or the hearing officer if they so choose to go to a hearing officer, which is also a part of the Metro Board of Equalization. Jimmy, would you like to add something to that?
Correct, okay.
Pull your mic down.
That's correct. They introduce usually income approaches or some type of valuation that either warrants a reduction or not a reduction, but it's up to the Metro Board to make that decision.
Okay. Do we keep numbers on, well, obviously, it looks like there were 7,177 formal appeals to that Metro Board?
It was 7, yes, to the Metro Board.
And do we know how many were successful in terms of that appeal?
Mr. Brad Pig of Technology said it was 55% that was successful in those number of appeals of the 7,177 appeals.
And is that consistent across the board, like in 2013, 2009?
I presume that is consistent, but I'll let Brad.
That is correct.
Okay. So then I guess the last question would be, if it's consistent, why the number is so high.
Because of the decisions that they make in those appeals. It's not that they're just as successful, but how much of the assessed dollars loss or adjustment that made in each appeal is why that number is higher. Would we like to give an example of Opryland?
Yeah, Opry Mills.
Opry Mills, that's
Was
correct.
reduced $32 million at their appeal. Okay, that's a lot. It was one appeal, but that equates to $32 million. Out of that, $717 million. So one appeal on a big property can raise that number substantially.
And one thing that contributes to it as well is that a large number of those appeals were from commercial property owners.
Was that the largest one?
We don't know if that's the largest, the
I
largest one.
don't know. It was,
I mean, I assume all this information is public.
yes, it is
Okay.
correct.
So
It was close to one of the largest. If it wasn't, I think it was the largest one.
could we get like the top 5 that we would
Yes,
actually
you
have?
can.
No? Okay.
I think we've been asked that question before and by the media, and I'm sure we got that readily available.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Councilwoman Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all for the huge job y'all did. I know that was a lot of properties to oversee. We appreciate it. Question about how many appeals are now outstanding at the State Board. Do y'all have that number?
Yes, how many are standing? 2,000? Jimmy, go right ahead.
19,000 and 1,987.
Yeah, I was going to say approximately 2,000, that's correct.
Right.
And so we're still waiting to hear on those. So that could be another ding that we don't even know about yet?
Absolutely. I
Okay.
mean, it is a terminology you just used, ding. It is a ding that's every year for the State Board of Equalization. They're
Right.
independent. They decide at what point they're going to hear those cases and those appeals, and it's just something that goes into the process.
Gotcha.
It's happened every year since we've started doing reappraisals every 4 years.
Right. And in the meantime, they paid this year based on what their assessment was.
Repeat that again?
So the payment that they made by February of 2018 for 2017 was based on which value, the new one or the old one?
Undisputed.
It would be the undisputed amount,
Okay.
what they think the property's worth.
Okay, so we're not, nothing comes away from last year. We just add to it if they are unsuccessful. That's encouraging to know. And then of the 717,866 assessed loss, was that mostly commercial as opposed to residential? That one was
Correct.
mostly commercial?
Yes, an
Okay.
overwhelming
Amount.
large number of commercial.
Okay, and this may be a question for Talia rather than y'all. When someone who has received a pilot from us is reassessed, does that affect how their pilot is calculated?
I don't think so. Not immediately. There wouldn't be an immediate impact.
Okay, I mean, if their bottom line is what's their
But we
pilot's
would go in
being.
there and evaluate that afterwards.
Okay, so like if their bottom line just got pushed lower, does that create more income for us potentially for the difference?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm just looking. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. We all are. Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, Chair Lady, and I want to thank our assessor and their office. Providing individual justice one parcel at a time, I know, is a daunting task.
Can we coin that as one of our mission statements?
Well, it's a lot of parcels
Yes,
to
it is.
provide individual justice,
Right.
one at a time. A couple of quick questions. Part of the great difficulty in your office is the dramatic increase in real estate values over the 4 years between the reappraisal. In your remarks, you were saying that trend seems to have continued since the appraisal was last year. Could you give any insight as to where you think we are a year and a half into our next reappraisal in terms of property values? And you were mentioning the need for staff to stay on top of that continuing trend.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things I'm just going to reiterate from what I stated here in my presentation is that from the analysis that we've already taken, we have approximately 3.3% increase of assessed value from new growth as of today. that is forthcoming. That equates to $29 million from mainly new construction that you'll be able to collect for next year. If there are no well, of course, it could be slightly changed from appeals. It could be slightly changed from any other decision that's made outside of anything else. But that's good news in that sense. In reference to trending more upwardly, I'm going to let also Jimmy here go ahead.
Right now, our ratio, and basically that's comparing our appraised value to what properties are selling for, and in residential property, we're at 90% of market value, and at commercial, we are at 85% of market value. So that tells us that real estate is selling for more than what we have it appraised for as of January 1st, 2017.
So thank you. So the growth makes it difficult to project, and there's going to be some back and forth with successful appeals, but also the growth, though, is good news.
Yes.
It's replenishing the coffers. So we may be, I guess there's a narrative about $25 million not being collected somehow. I wish you would comment on that. But also, growth is providing some of that money back pretty rapidly.
Absolutely.
Okay.
For the first time since 2000, commercial total assessed value exceeds residential total assessed value. So that means that commercial is now carrying the tax burden, as it should have been for quite a long time. But growth has contributed to that. So that's a good thing. That's what makes growth good.
Thank you. And so, again, the narrative of somehow $25 million wasn't collected, the additional collections you were projecting from filings since the last appraisal, what kind of number would that be?
When you're saying additional collections, because we don't collect the tax
You're
dollars.
not collecting, but the new properties coming on the books. But that, I didn't quite hear that. That's a material percentage of increased valuations.
Yeah, equating to like 29 million. Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
On 29 million. So actually greater than the 25 million that's in the narrative that was not collected in real estate.
Yes, that could be collected next year.
It's actually
You wanna
more
ask-
coming in on
right.
this increase in
That's a great
value
question.
than this appellate process has left us with. And then one final quick question.
Sure.
Do you have wouldn't there be a formula as property gets more and more value for every kind of 10% that it goes up? Well, shouldn't there be an appropriate formula where we kind of hold back because we're incenting people for more appeals? I mean, the greater the value growth, the more people will want to appeal their property, and the more you're going to lose some of those appeals.
Well, I'll say something, and of course, my staff can comment any time. We like to believe that the number of appeals could have been higher, but our office took a proactive approach, understanding that the reappraisal for 2017 was going to be one of the highest increase in value, probably in Davidson County history. So we began to educate property owners to help them understand how the process worked. It's not as simple as pulling a value from out of the sky and just saying, we're going to stick it to you. We explained to them about the sales approach that we use. We explained to them about the cost approach that we use. And we explained to them about the income approach that we use. The latter two are very complex, but we explained that these approaches are nationally known procedures that have been approved by those organizations that we fall up under, and also approved by those departments at the state that governs us. So that is a key point there in reference to how we believe that the appeals were not as high as we thought they were going to be. We really was expecting it for it to be tremendous, but it wasn't. It was the third highest year in the last 20 years of informal reviews. You want to add some more?
Thank you.
And that is true. And then you got to think our appraisals stay constant for 4 years unless there's a change to the property. So the appeal rate usually goes down, okay? In non-reappraisal years, it has a tendency to be less every year, especially with values going up. And values continue to go up. So I'm hoping there's less and less appeals for the next 3 years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Wilhoit, let me get you to go back over reappraisal year on page 1 that you got here.
Sure.
Let me just make sure I understand the numbers as we were talking through. The 190, the 0.63, the 717, and then 2.58. Can you explain that one more time? I know you did, but I wasn't catching everything. I was trying to take notes.
Sure. As a result of the informal reviews that we handle, It equated to, as a result of $190,419,464 in assessed loss. When you're speaking of assessed loss as far as percentages, 0.63%. That was in reference to the informal review. And then you have the assessed loss after the formal appeals handled by the Metro Board of Equalization and hearing officers. Total assessed loss after their decisions was $717,816,447. That equated to 2.58% in percentage of decrease.
Okay, so Mr. Cardwell said that he collects about $900 million a year in property taxes. Help me equate that to the number you're showing us here.
I can't equate that. No, you wanna try to do that? We just heard that number today.
Yeah.
We can provide you the data that we have, but the $900 million that he's collected and 97% been collected, the collection, I can't confirm that his information is correct. All I can do is confirm that our information is correct.
Okay, I'm just, you know, I'm a 2 + 2 = 4 guy.
I get it.
And I'm not getting to 4 yet, so.
So am I. So
Yeah.
if you would like us to get with Mr. Cardwell and provide you some.
If you would, because I'd like to know
Sure.
from $900 million last year to what, well, a year before, whatever it was, however that number works. I would like to see what was our actual net loss of revenues that we had projected versus what we actually received. And finance may have that, I don't know.
Well, we can only talk about the assessed loss net. We can't speak of, you have to ask finance about
Right.
in reference to.
Unfortunately, though, the checks we have to write, the money has to be in the account. So we're trying to figure out where those are. So if finance could give me that answer, that would be lovely. I know we hadn't finished the year yet, but I'd like to catch up to it. I know we've had this conversation to a degree on some of the property taxes, but I'm just trying to figure out what we thought we were going to be and what we actually are. So, all right, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilor Dow.
Thank you. I just had a quick question. Some of the questions I've had have been answered, so I really appreciate that. One, I want to tell you thank you for coming out into the community and explaining your department and everybody how the tax assessment would work and how it impacts each person in the community.
Property assessment?
Property assessor. I don't know why I keep saying tax, so pardon me, not tax, property assessor, assessor property. I don't know why I keep saying tax assessor, so I apologize.
Okay.
I do know it's property assessor. But I want to thank you all for coming out. I think it helped out a lot with people understanding how their taxes were going to be calculated on their property and to know what to expect with the increase in property values. But one of the questions I wanted you to go back to, you spoke about the commercial property, the amount of deductions in that, and you mentioned Opry land as an example. Will you go back? I know you said, we talked about it was like $32 million that we had difference, and you quoted a dollar amount. I heard you say a certain amount for Opry Mills or that Opry land area that was reassessed. Do you remember what the dollar amount was?
We'll let Jimmy can give more extensive information
The
on
only
that.
thing I quoted, or I think I did, the appraisal from our office was $334 million, and it was reduced to $300 million, which was an assessment loss of roughly $34 million.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear.
And I think that was the biggest assessment loss we had, but we're going to get a list of the top 5. Because I'm just not for sure off the top of my head which 5 those were.
And that's fine. One of the things I would like to see is all those commercial properties that we have in our redevelopment districts. I would like to see which ones of those have requested to be reassessed. So I want to see all the ones that are in our reassessment, like we talked about the development districts.
Like GBID, the Gulch Development District.
Yes.
And also Central
The Gulch area, all of those redevelopment, I think we have 7 of those, if I'm not mistaken.
And you also have, out in Southeast Davidson, there's going to be a new development district
We
there.
do, but we have only one piece of property on it now.
Correct.
And it's not participating, so we don't have any, just for the record.
Correct,
So
correct.
we don't have any. And I was just going to speak to Councilman Glover. I do know that some of the tax dollars that are collected through Mr. Caldwell's office are kept in CBIZ and other things that are passed on the MDHA, so that may be a reason for some of the difference. But if you could just give me those commercial properties that are within those redevelopment zones.
Absolutely.
The ones that have asked for reappraisal, including Opryland, I think that'll help me. Thanks a bunch.
Yeah,
Now,
our
remember,
pleasure.
it wasn't the hotel, it was Opera Mills, the mall.
Yes,
Okay, so there is a difference.
absolutely, there's a difference.
Okay.
So the Opry Mills property.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about that incorrection, yeah,
That's
Opry
okay.
Mills.
Councilman Hager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Wilhort, for being here, Mr. Clary, all of you, Christie. One question I had was, I know that out of those appeals, how many did y'all appeal versus the ones that the other people, the homeowners appealed?
When you say we appealed,
Did y'all appeal any?
to the State Board of Equalization, we
Yes.
did appeal 11.
11? And were those commercial or residential properties?
They were all commercial, and residential, they were all commercial.
Okay, and if you win those appeals, how much does that represent? Do you have an idea at all?
And one of them is Opera Mills, so.
Okay.
So that's 30.
Lean forward, Jimmy, so I can hear you.
And how much money would that be if y'all win that appeal?
That's 32 million on the assessment row. So, I mean, tax dollars, I don't know right off the
Okay.
top of my head.
All
We'll
right,
get that for you,
all right, that's fine.
definitely.
And the other thing is, let me make sure I understand, I know if the homeowner appeals to the state and they win, they get their money back plus interest. Is that still true or not?
Correct.
How much is the interest now?
It's small.
That's
It's
only
like the-
provided, though, that they pay the full amount.
The full amount?
Yes, if they pay the undisputed amount, they don't get anything
Okay.
back, okay?
But they do get their interest
If they pay
if they
the
prevail.
amount. That's
And pay that full amount. Okay.
I'd like to add that we have been receiving some of the results from the State Board on some residential where there's, where the property owner is either dropping their appeal. There are some of those appeals that are appeals of jurisdiction, meaning that they missed the deadline to appeal through the process of the informal and the formal. So now now the State Board will say, hey, we decided that, no, we're not going to let you appeal because you should have met the appeal deadlines of the previous process. So there are quite a few of those like that too
Okay.
as well.
And the last question I have, as far as you've got different properties coming online now, when do they have to pay taxes? Once they get their UNO, is that how it works?
I'm sorry, repeat that, sir.
When do they pay the new properties that are coming online now? Do they have to pay their taxes when they get the UNO? Is that how that works?
They pay their property taxes unless it's some type of improvement that is a prorate.
Yeah, improvements. That's what I'm talking about.
Exactly. The prorate, I'm not familiar with the deadline other than the deadline of February the 28th of the year. And after that, they encumber a penalty.
Yeah, what I'm asking though is like if you've got 30 new houses that you get a UNO like this month in May, okay, then y'all assess the property, right? And they pay a prorated amount of taxes for this year. Is that correct on that improved property?
If a new improvement, whether it be commercial or residential, is completed as of 1/1/2018, they will pay their tax bill at the end of February of next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as far as the assessment's concerned, it'd be done like if they're finished in May and get a UNO, then they'd be assessed during that May month. Is that correct?
They would have a prorated assessment.
All right, and then they would go the first of 2019, they'd have to pay the full amount. Is that correct? So they wouldn't pay a prorated amount right now, even though they get a UNO in May, correct?
They'll pay for the prorated assessment if they completed, say, their house in May.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. So we don't know how many of those are coming up though,
They
right?
haven't started the prorate roll, so no.
Okay, thank you.
And Councilman, also $403,000 on
Is
Opera
the-
Mills
yeah.
if we're successful.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Thank you, boss.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Glover.
I'm going back through some of the other numbers. The percentage of appeals that were done year to year, I guess, assessment-wise, do you know what those are? I know you told us about what the success rate was, but the percentage of appeals?
Decrease?
No. The formal appeals, 7,177 of the total number of properties, because we've obviously added a fair amount of buildings in Davidson County. And so I'm just trying to figure out if it went up more than you'd perhaps projected. Was it about the same, or where did that number fall?
Well, the informal reviews, the percentage, as you could see, as far as decrease is concerned, is about, for informal reviews, it's about the same or within the same ballpark of what we've done in previous years. In 2009, the percentage assessed dollars lost was 0.72%. And in 2013, the assessed dollars lost on informal review was 0.80%. And this year, our 2017 was 0.63%. So it was even lower in the previous two reappraisal years.
Okay, Chair, I'm going to try and formulate my question a little bit better, and I'll send it to you guys, because I'm not connecting, and so I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Seeing no other council members, thank you so much, Assessor Will Ward, to your team and your staff for serving this great city and doing such a fantastic job during the reappraisal year. Thank you for being here. The next department that we'll be hearing from is the Register of Deeds. You can be making your way up as the assessor a property and her staff leaves.